Do we have a link?
Yep.
What link?
We're live. You guys are live.
We are live.
Yeah.
Emergency podcast. Sound the alarm.
Are we back?
I think we're back. We just had a couple technical difficulties. We're about to try and tweet out all these links so that more people can join us right now because we are in the process of processing. You're in the process of processing the epic men's and women's 200 that just took place.
We are
on
rattled.
Day 7 of the World Athletics Championships. I'm Chris Chavez, joined by Kyle Merber, Jasmine Todd, and Caitlin Hutchison in the boots. They just ran here. How are you guys feeling?
I don't know how I'm going to make it through fall training, guys. I'm not sure. I'm really tired, and running with a cane is very difficult.
Coach Green, Coach Ferg, if you see this, please pray for me.
This emergency podcast brought to you by Tracksmith. Use code WORLDS for 20% off. You only get it through the end of the championship.
Yeah, so you're running out of days soon.
They are storytellers. We're storytellers supporting athletes and
all of the best in track and field, the roads, the marathons. Tracksmith does a great job of supporting athlete storytelling, and we're doing our best here at the World Championships. They're behind us, and we encourage you guys to also check out Malcolm Gladwell's Legacy of Speed podcast, which really cool enough. John Carlos and Tommy Smith, who were the subjects of that podcast documentary series, were in the stadium today to watch the men's 200.
Tracksmith.
Subscribe to Legacy of
by
Speed
Tracksmith
on all.
and 200.
Use code WORLDS at tracksmith.com. 200.
Oh, my gosh.
We got reaction videos.
What are you more
Okay.
fired up about right now?
Noah!
Oh, my gosh. I have to say the men's sweep. How amazing was that? And Noah, first of all, the fact that it popped up as a 1932 and then changed to a 1931. First of all, 1930, period. Fast. That was a very fast race. And I just want to point out that I actually really love where John Carlos and them were sitting. They're actually up top.
Uncle
They
Johnny.
had the best seat in the house, I'm going to be honest, because we're kind of on that lower portion. It's really hard to actually see the race and where everyone is. You could see where they are coming off the curb. But to see where they are on the finish line, he had like the prime spot. Wow.
I want to know where Michael Johnson was in that stadium. And
Me too, actually.
Well, he was in the BBC broadcast booth because he gets to do an interview with Noah Lyles immediately after
Oh
Noah
my
Lyles just
goodness.
broke his record. So that should be a special moment. I'm sure we'll see that clip on social media soon. So, Kyle, do you want to break down the race?
I don't know if you guys saw as well as we did where you were sitting. Noah beat Erriyon to the curve. Like
Yes.
off the curve.
Yes.
And that was it. That was
Yeah.
the whole
That
race.
was it. That was the
is-
race.
yeah.
That was literally the race. Once I saw how fast of a start Noah had, he ate that curb up. He started breaking that staggered within like maybe 30 meters. He was gone. He was out of there.
Before the race, everything was, all right, Erriyon on the inside, lane 3, Noah outside. He's going to try to get him off the curve. He's the best curve runner in the world. And Noah's the best finisher in the world. And that was the two worlds colliding. And then Noah just immediately was like, well, if you're good at the curve, I guess I have to be. And he beat him off it.
You know what? It's not surprising though. Noah kind of called what he wanted to run. He knew he wanted to run fast. He shut down. If you would be a fool to think that he would not have ran a 19.3. I think I talked to Caitlin about this. I kind of called it before when we did our little hot takes before each of the races. And he shut down with a 19.6.
And then in second place, the most disrespected
Kung Fu.
silver medalist.
We need to put more respect on Kenny Bednarek's name.
You know,
It is-
he just is so sound.
yeah,
Right?
he's
Like
consistent.
it's consistent.
When they announced him on the
consistent.
starting line and they showed that his world ranking was number 1, I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like, Erriyon has run 19.4. Noah is the U.S. champion. How is he ranked number 1? And Kyle, you had to explain to me. I mean, he just consistently races at all these diamond leagues and racks up the points and wins.
He races constantly. He's not scared to travel the world and hop in a 200, win some diamond leagues, and he just always shows up. Without even looking it up, I can't even think of the last time he wasn't on a podium in a race. Like, he's always top 3s, winning first or second all the time.
Kenny knows how to show up when it matters. Like, the fact that Kenny came out and pulled it, you've got to put respect on Kenny's name. Kenny, Kung Fu Kenny. Come on now.
And there's a lot of hype about how young our 200 runners are. Noah's now kind of a veteran. He has a second world championship, but he's still very young. Kenny's only 23.
It's a baby.
And, he wasn't this highly touted recruit coming out of high school into college. He was JUCO, right?
Yes.
And just has slowly progressed little by little by little. I mean, if you look at his season's best, he runs in 2016, 21.9, 2018, 20.4, 2019, 19.8, then 21, 19.6, silver at the Olympics, right? Silver?
Yes.
Third? Silver.
Silver.
2022 comes out, silver at the World Championships.
You got to put respect on his name. I think the issue with track and field is we kind of stick to these big names and we start to discredit some of those people. But he has shown time and time again he is a 200 runner. He knows how to show up when it matters. He's got medals to back it up. So it's definitely time to, come on now, Kung Fu Kenny.
What makes him good? Like, what's his thing compared to Noah being the great finisher and Erriyon being the great starter curve runner?
You know what? I don't even know. If I'm being honest, like, I feel like he just all around, I don't see anything that's like super spectacular. Like we saw Noah's normally a finisher, and we know Erriyon is like, he knows how to end the race. I think Kenny is just that perfect mixture of the both of them, where he's got the best of both worlds and neither one outweighs the other.
He's like Mario in Mario Kart, or like a Yoshi, you know?
That
Not quite the
makes
Bowser,
sense.
not quite the Toad. He's got like 3 out of 5, more like 4 out of 5 stars on every ability level.
Yes.
He's just consistent. And that's probably why we see that consistency in his races, because he always, it's not like he's dependent on one thing. He can make up for a bad start.
Yes.
And he can also rely on, it's just, he's just there. And I think the whole time in this race, we were looking at, Erriyon and Noah. And meanwhile, Kenny, I didn't even realize until the very end that he was taking second.
I realized.
So we kind of just, because I've got Twitter open right now, we were wondering, like, oh, Noah Lyles broke Michael Johnson's record. What's Michael Johnson thinking right now? He actually just went on the BBC. There's a tweet from Nick Zaccardi from NBC Sports, who just tweeted a screenshot of what Michael Johnson said. You want to hear it, Kyle? It's your best friend, Michael Johnson.
Very good friend, Michael Johnson.
He said, I knew that he was going to run faster than 1932 someday. To be honest, when you've held the world record, you don't really focus on the national record. That's Michael.
So good. It's such a good quote.
Yes.
You have to wonder, like, how long he's been thinking about that, because, like, there's guys who've been, like, just inching closer and closer, and that he's like, you know what? At one point, I held the world record, so yeah.
I mean, he's had that American record for what, 25 years or something?
Longer
long time.
There's been a lot of really good sprinters between the two.
That shows you how remarkable that record is.
Yeah, Noah Lyles wasn't even alive when that record was
my God.
set.
Has anyone told him about it?
What?
The record and Michael Johnson's legacy?
Probably.
Okay. We'll inform him. And then, we were kind of celebrating for our man Joe, who,
Yes.
the Gator.
Yes.
He American born, Minnesotan, running for Liberia. But we were still cheering for him. We were saying 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of.
That's what I called. I said American sweep. The only person that could break it up, the only person I would want to break it up is Joe. He was out at that line. We were cheering for him. We gave him the little Gator clap, and you couldn't be more proud. I think if you're following that NCAA track and field, you can't not cheer for Joe.
Caitlin, you're someone who is more plugged in with
She's still out of breath.
Yeah, she's still out of breath.
She's catching her breath, guys.
Yeah, it's funny. You're speechless from this race.
She's never been to like a pro track meet until like a week ago, and we just threw her in with the Lions.
How was that for you? I was gonna ask you about Joe, but I mean, it seems like you're just on cloud nine. What was that, Caitlin?
I said that shit was nuts. Okay. Okay. So Jasmine knows the lady who was sitting next to me was absolutely pissed off at how excited I was.
That's Christian Taylor's wife.
What?
Not just the lady next
Did you
to
know that?
That was Christian Taylor's wife. Continue.
Never mind. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Good save. Good save.
Never mind.
All right. So what were you doing that the section around you was starting to realize you were a diehard?
I was just screaming a lot, and everyone was plugging their ears.
How cool was the stadium atmosphere with the Jamaicans with what's it called?
The Vuvuzelas.
The Vuvuzelas.
They sat among Team USA, right? Like in that area?
Yeah, they were pretty close to. I don't even really like. So Team USA's team was on the opposite side of the track towards the 300-meter start, but in the area that we have been sitting, it's more of the USATF staff, and then a lot of the legends, and then also a lot of Oregon alum is there. But mixed in there is a whole bunch of Jamaicans left and
Infiltrated.
right. They are squeezing in there. They've got their flags. They've got their blowhorns. They are going crazy. And we actually stopped, and I think you guys saw us taking pictures with some of the fans, but we had to let them know how much we appreciate them, because the love that they have for their country, we want our fans to start bringing over to the Team USA. And I think they really appreciated hearing that, because how can you go against those fans?
Well, okay, we got more from Michael Johnson.
Oh,
Because they took a commercial break, and then they did a Shericka Jackson interview, and so they came back to Michael, and he said, I will text him and say, hey, absolutely, congratulations. But I think for Noah, I don't think he really cares about the American record. He wants a world record. I think it might be within his reach. Whoa. High praise from the greatest of all time.
Wow.
So just to quickly run down how we get to Noah's fourth fastest of all time. First place is Bolt, 1919. We're familiar. Second fastest ever is Johan Blake, which a lot of people forget about.
Yeah.
1926. Third, Bolt ran 1930 one other time in Beijing, and then we go to Lyles in fourth. So then just think of everyone who's behind.
The craziest thing, though, is he even admitted today in that interview that he started breaking down in his form. And so he felt like he was running slow, and he was scared of the time that was going to pop up. I think that's kind of scary, because that just shows he really isn't used to running that fast yet. And now that his body has reached it, he's going to get more comfortable with that speed, which means I definitely see a world record coming from him.
It is nuts that, like, to
Nuts.
steal Caitlin's word, Usain Bolt's records for us and for our generation have just been like, I think this thing's going to stand for a while. Tonight's the first night that I think like that 200, which was Bolt's favorite event, are in jeopardy.
Can I ask a technical question
Yeah.
right now, Jasmine? I hope you're ready. Because I think Marvin or Trayvon had made the comment about like running with the wind and running a really fast time, even if it's wind dated, benefits you afterwards. Like once you've experienced what it's like to run a certain speed,
Absolutely.
the subsequent races that happen after that are positively affected. And you were just kind of mentioning the fact that Noah has never been there before, and now that he has that and has
feeling.
felt what that's like, he can harness. I don't understand.
So running with the wind to your back, not to your front. When the wind is to your back, it's like doing overspeed. So a lot of sprinters, when we get out there, when we're training, we do these overspeed workouts. For the most part, we're getting pulled. I'm sure some people have seen Marcel Jacobs with it kind of cuts off the wind. That's his form of overspeed. I think here in America, for the most part, we're getting pulled. Your body's starting to get used to
Like a bungee.
Yes, with the
Okay.
bungee cord. Someone's typically pulling you on the other end. And when you're getting pulled, or even if you get pushed, your body's getting propelled forward. Your body's not really used to that. But the more that you're doing it and the more consistent you're getting, your body's getting used to that feeling. And that's probably one of the prime workouts that sprinters will do, so that their body's getting used to running at such a fast speed.
So is that why when we see someone have a breakthrough, that it
Gets
just
better.
keeps happening?
Only goes up from there. Yes.
Interesting.
So I want to quickly go over a couple stats that were sent via World Athletics in Oregon 22 from that race. So obviously we saw Noah Lyles, 1931, third fastest time in history, beats the American record. Kenny Bednarek is part of the sweep. So is Noah Lyles. This is the second time the U.S. has swept the 200. The first time was in 2005. It's the fourth event sweep of these World Championships, and this is the first ever World Championships with 4 medal sweeps because we had the men's 100, 200, men's shot put, women's 100. Noah Lyles becomes the third man to defend his World Championship title in the 200 meters after Usain Bolt and Calvin Smith. And then Erriyon Knighton, at 18 years old and 174 days, he is the youngest medalist ever in the men's 200 meters and the second youngest in an individual event at the World Championships after Richard Tulimo ran the 10K at 18 years old and 127 days in 1991. Erriyon Knighton's 19.8 third place finish ties him for the best ever third place finish in history after Christophe Lemaitre of France in 2011.
So something that you probably got to experience a little bit with Erriyon was like he is a competitor, and he missed out on a medal in Tokyo. How do you think you got to spend a couple days with him in Tampa earlier this year? How do you think he's going to process this third? 18 years old, youngest ever to get a medal like that.
Well, he wants gold. Like that was evident in the video that we've done on him, which you guys can go back and find on our YouTube channel. He doesn't like to lose. I've said that, 50 times on this podcast by now. But the one thing is that he's surrounded by these people who put him into the right headspace. He's working closely with Coach Jonathan Terry, who we're hoping to get on the line pretty soon. Mac, if you can go ahead and text JT and send him the link. What's that? You don't have his number? I have his number. So send me the link, and I'll send it over to him. It's the latest link you sent me? Perfect. I will.
So this is
reach out to him.
Errion's coach.
Yeah, Jonathan Terry, who was his AAU coach, and he's stuck with him this whole entire time. It's
That's
kind
crazy.
of reminiscent of the fact that Usain Bolt with Glenn Mills, like they were a tag team that went on and on forever. And Erriyon has run really fast under Coach JT's guidance. It sounds like Coach Mike Holloway has been a big part of that as well. So it's a tag team, but Erriyon trains by himself in Tampa. He takes some time during the week to go up to Gainesville. He drives himself up to Gainesville in a really nice car. The kid loves cars, and he spends time surrounded by the likes of Grant Holloway and all the Florida Gators, and so. He's openly said if he would have gone to college, he would have been a Gator. And those are people who have talked. When Grant Holloway went on Jasmine and Caitlin's podcast, he said that he constantly reminds Erriyon that he needs some hardware in order to be remembered in this sport. Right now, he's got the fourth fastest time in history. That's nice. Well, now he gets bumped down to number 5 after tonight because Noah kind of retakes that spot ahead of him. But he's got that forever now, right? He's at least like in the top 5. No one really remembers times. He could have been, top 10, whatever. They remember the champions. They remember the medalists. So the first step is bringing home a medal. And for Erriyon, he definitely wanted gold. But tonight, bronze is a big step forward when he's just he's only 18.
Did you see any interaction afterwards or body language? I know that there was a little bit of a rivalry developing there, but then to do 1, 2, 3 with Team USA teammates, something that all of the guys had said previously they wanted to do that was important to them. Did you guys notice anything?
I mean, it's I'm sure they like there's a fire between both of them. And Noah's a showman. He's gonna let people know how good he is. Just because, I mean, in this sport, you have to be vocal in order to break through to the mainstream. And, it wasn't immediate. They all posed for a photo together, I'm sure. Erriyon, when he came through after the first round in the mixed zone, was talking about, and even in the second round, he was excited for the potential of a U.S. sweep. he's someone who, a medal is a success for him. Winning gold is probably the gold was a goal, but he should. I got the temperature that he seemed to be pretty happy. I mean, there's a photo of him right now that I just stumbled upon on Twitter where he's all smiles
Smiling.
in a selfie. So it's good to see. He seems to be in good spirits.
Yeah, I mean, he also mentioned in that post-race interview that first he said it's my first international medal, and then he had to stop and like, wait, this is my first medal. I think it's gonna take him a minute to fully soak in what just happened. I know he had gold on his mind, but I know he's going to appreciate this first medal because he knows this is just beginning for him because he's so young.
Noah was showing Erriyon like a lot of love. Like I know after like USA's, everybody was like, "Oh Noah, you're like disrespectful, like you're a piece of shit for like pointing at him." But Noah was like, it literally had nothing to do with him. And two, like I don't hate the kid. Also, like we're competitors. Like what do you want me to do? But then after Noah was like singing his own praises as he should after breaking the American record, he goes straight to Erriyon. He's like, "This is the greatest curve runner in the world." Like it wasn't fake or anything. It was literally just an outpour of like love and respect for the fact that like this kid at 18 years old was almost like was the favorite to whoop Noah's ass tonight, to be entirely honest. And so obviously Noah took that to heart as a guy who also doesn't like to lose. He's like, I'm not gonna let that happen. And then, you know, after giving Erriyon a lot of praise, I think it went on for at least like 60 seconds, like literally just talking about how much he loves the kid, goes on to Kenny and then starts giving him the exact same amount of love and attention. It's just like, you know, they've been talking about this sweep for a minute. They found the three pieces to put it together, and there was like no hate between them.
I'm also just gonna speak. I want Kenny on this show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some phone calls after this because I want to hear more from Kenny because we got the world needs to know more about him. But something that I think is so cool about Noah, one of his greatest assets is obviously he is a showman. I mean, the second he came out onto the stadium, he's pointing to the sky, got the crowd hyped before the gun goes off. And immediately after, when that clock popped up, 1931, the rip of the singlet, he's an Adidas athlete. He's got that Nike symbol on his chest. Well, I'm sure...
Someone get him a new one for the relay, possibly.
I think that they have a few. Like just those pictures are already iconic. So cool. But something that I've really learned to appreciate about him is how much he is a student of the sport. And I believe, was it after the prelim? Or after the semifinal, there was the interview in which he used a mask to demonstrate these blocks and why they are different, and the lip and the reaction time and how you have to be so steady in them compared to the previous blocks that are often used in high school and college and even previous races. And it's just like, that is such a detail-oriented mind. And to be that analytical, he's not just running fast. Like, he is studying his opponents. He is studying the sport. I'm sure he's watched Michael Johnson's 200-meter record dozens and dozens of times. And so I think from an outsider's perspective, for many years as a distance runner, it was just like, yeah, you just sprint.
Yeah. So, what's funny is, like, I was just thinking about the fact that my first ever interview podcast with Noah Lyles was in 2018. And he was the young rising star. And we sat down in a hotel in Boston. This was during Boston Marathon weekend. Adidas was putting on the Boston Boost Games. And he'd never done a podcast before. And we're kicking back. And it was incredible when I asked him sort of like who he looked up to, and like obviously a kid that young, Erriyon's getting the same questions now, like, how he looked up to Bolt or anything like that. And he said, he doesn't have any idols or icons in the sport. He is his own icon. He actually, I think, has the word icon tattooed on like his rib cage, because for the longest time I think like that's how he's wanted to think. He doesn't want to be the next Usain Bolt. He doesn't want to be the next Michael Johnson. He's wanted to be Noah Lyles. And tonight I think was a night that he really not only just stamped himself atop the U.S. record books, but in history now as a two-time world champion.
I think something that we've been talking about numerous times this week is how do we, or like what's going on outside this little track bubble? like we're really excited about the 1-2-3 sweep in the 100, and now we're really excited about that 1-2-3 sweep in the 200. But is the rest of the world seeing it? And we did see it earlier in the season when Erriyon took down Bolt's record in the U20, and now I am hopeful that Michael Johnson is a big enough name that Noah taking down his American record can get some traction and play in media outside of the CITIUS walls.
So you know what? I'm telling you right now. I've got Twitter open. I've got a column on my tweet deck that just kind of observes bigger sports media accounts from across, a lot of major news outlets. This is back from my Sports Illustrated days. I've been using this thing, and in the middle of this column, I'm looking at it right now. The Athletic has retweeted the video of Noah winning the race. Sports Center has tweeted the video of Noah winning the race. I saw people from ESPN tweeting about it. Here's Josina Anderson, who's got, 200,000 followers, but is an NFL insider, tapping into that audience. So I think tonight may have made a little bit more noise than the men's 100. Maybe Michael is a big reason for that. But Noah's the personality. Noah is vocal. He's not going to let this one go quietly, I think. Whereas Fred, he's a little bit quieter and shyer. I think Noah really wants to put it out that, hey, this is a big deal. Here's why you should watch. I've got more.
The only thing we need next is a 4x1 American record.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm hoping that this race can highlight how amazing this is. The men just swept the 100. They then followed up sweeping the 200. If this does not have everybody excited to see what this 4x100 is about to do, you're insane. You better tune in for that, because I think they're going to go in hot for the prelims, and they're going to run something absolutely ridiculous coming into that final.
And I went on Twitter earlier this week, and obviously we've been hanging out with all the potential people who could be running, and I had tweeted that, I know everyone's super worried about the 4x1, but literally been chilling with them all week, and everyone's on the same page about not embarrassing the U.S. men's 4x1 for the gazillionth time for whatever reason. And literally something that I found interesting is that every time when one of those guys came over to the house, someone always mentioned relay practice. And I know the biggest concern about the Olympics last year was, finding out the day of, not practicing, a whole bunch of rumors about egos and whatever. But that is just simply not the case. When me and Jasmine were talking to Trayvon and Marvin, literally talking about how they were racing each other during relay practice because they're just so tuned in to wanting to, make it happen. Noah was talking about, breaking the world record in the 4x1 because that's just how bad that all of them want it. And just know all 25 billion combinations of this 4x1 that could possibly come out tomorrow and the day after, it's set up for success.
Well, someone was missing from this race today, and that's Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The fastest man in the world. It would have been great to see him in there. Maybe we could have got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 winky face sweep. And he won't be available for the 4x1. We won't reveal our sources, but I know, hearing that when he unfortunately, pulled up in that 200, it sounds like it's not so, we're going to see him the rest of the year at some point for sure. But just, I think the U.S. men, the way they've performed in the 100 and 200 is so far ahead of the second best country right now. There is not even a question of if the fourth best guy in the U.S. men's team is the fourth best runner in the world, then the next best team's fourth best person is 30th. It's not even, so it's just about getting the stick around healthy, smoothly. And it seems like the team's got some good chemistry.
Yeah, I think they've got really good chemistry. I think Team USA learned from last year not having a relay camp how detrimental it was to our team. So they came out. I know they had a relay camp prior to this, which is normal. So I'm so glad that they were able to do that. They've been practicing. These guys are ready to go. It doesn't matter who they have on this team. They've got the chemistry. They're all ready. They know what they want to do. And because of the fact that they are all on the same mindset with this 4x1, it's going to be something remarkable, and I cannot say that enough.
Well, the thing about like that we're harping on is the depth of the United States. Someone just noted it in the YouTube chat that Steve Magnus pointed this out on Twitter. The 100-200 sweep, 6 different guys.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
depth.
We were actually talking about that this morning with Loggy's coach, post Daily Show, and he's like, if we pull this like thing off in the 200, like we've never had 6 different guys sweep the 1 and the 2, and like that's gonna be history before everyone's eyes.
Can I do one more Michael Johnson?
You're allowed
Yes.
one more for my best friend.
Okay. Again, from Nick Zaccardi, who's been on top of this, I guess, watching the BBC broadcast, or even it might be on NBC, but Noah Lyles did an interview, and he said that his back arched in the final 30 meters, quote, like Michael Johnson, which refers to Michael Johnson, Michael Johnson's trademark upright stance. And then he gave a quick shout out that his dad raced against Michael Johnson at the 1995 U.S. Championship. So
cool.
there's that connection between the two. So, I mean, when we were sitting down with Trevor Bassett earlier and we were saying how, like, his story, is storybook made for, like, a film, like his whole season. I think Noah, again, when RG3 was sitting here with Trayvon Bromell and Marvin Bracey and talking about these Netflix movies, Kyle, I hate to say it, but like distance runners are not as interesting as our sprinters, and the sprinters just totally deserve so much more.
It's
like,
not a hot take. Have you hung out with distance runners and hung out with sprinters?
it's like, yeah, I mean, again, like we harp so much on the athlete storytelling that there needs to be so much more done. You can't tell it during a TV broadcast.
You know what I loved, and I hope he does again, was RG3 after the 400 hurdles did the thing where he like popped his face up on the screen
Yes.
and he like broke down in such a cool 30-second recap that it's like if you didn't know anything was happening for a casual fan, now like watch a few of those on TikTok and all
Yes.
like that's you just digested everything that happened in the World Championships. I'm calling Robert out. I want to see that for the 200. I want that breakdown because it's just such a nice, succinct way of telling the story in a really, really small, palatable way
Yes.
that can, just proliferate beyond the scope of our walls.
Do you want me to text him right now and be like, hey, when's
We
the...
want to see that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had to retweet it. I'm like, we need more of this. I loved it.
Who wants to take the women's 200?
There was no chance.
That sounds like Jasmine's got
There
the recap
was
summary.
no chance, you guys. That was insane. First of all, I just had to watch Shelly come off that curve. Shelly ran the hell off that curve. Like she ate it up. She was breaking that stagger, and I think that's where Shericka had the benefit of seeing that her teammate, her partner, Shelly, is up there. She can see where they're at. She knows what she needs to do. She ran the hell of that curve as well. They come off that curve, and they're just honestly, I mean, shout out to Dina because Dina came in and snuck in that third place. You know what, Caitlin, I want to hear your take because you had a pretty hot take.
Yeah, someone
and
just
I
called you
think-
out in the chat.
I think you might need to apologize to Team Jamaica right
I'm not
now.
apologizing.
What?
Okay,
You have to
No,
apologize.
What
okay,
year? She never said
no.
what year.
No,
She said Abby was gonna win, but you guys didn't let her finish her sentence.
I'm not apologizing because, that's my teammate. Why would I not root for my teammate to win? So no, I'm not apologizing. And I already knew that Team Jamaica was fast, so I would need everyone to stop calling me like a butthead on Twitter and on YouTube.
That's
because,
hurtful.
What?
Ouch.
You know what? I'm not. I don't even know.
Ouch.
I am proud of Abby. That's all I'm going to say. Back to Jasmine.
No, Abby definitely ran a hell of a race. She's had such a long season. That's one thing that everyone has to keep in mind. She's gone through the whole collegiate season. That's indoors, outdoors, training to compete indoors and outdoors, and then having to tag along. So honestly, Abby, amazing job for taking this 5th place. This is just a start for you because now you're entering into this pro circuit. I think that she will be in contingent for coming back with a medal next year because now she's not going to have that long season under her belt. But sheesh.
Okay, guys, I don't want to talk about Abby right now. I want to talk about Shericka Jackson. Like, we cannot bury this lead.
That number popped up and I was like, never seen that before.
21:45. Championship record.
I was
personal
dead.
best. National record.
Number 2 all time, right?
Number 2 all time. I don't. What else can you say?
Do you want to know something else I could say? Apparently, the World Athletics gave the splits. Do you want to know? First 100, 11:04. Second, or no, wait, hold on. The national record of 21:45 was 11:04 for the first 100 meters.
On the curve.
10:41 for the second 100 meters.
Holy yeah, meh, yeah. God damn, that girl is running. I ain't got words anymore. Like, she was fucking gone. Excuse my language.
It's allowed. It's allowed.
I'm so sorry, you guys, but she's gone. And the fact that her first 100 on a curve is an 11:04 is actually sickening because it's hard to run on a curve. The curve is
And the wind, if people are wondering,
difficult.
0.6.
All right.
Shout out to the wind. I'm gonna be honest because this
Look into the camera and say something nice about the wind.
shout out. Which camera am I looking at? I can't even see over there. But shout out to the wind because the wind plays a lot of games and this makes it legal.
No games tonight.
It played no games. Actually, it did play a little bit of games because the wind was kind of whirling around. I was watching the triple jump, and there was a little bit of a negative wind, positive wind, but it didn't get too windy. So I know everyone doesn't understand, but the wind plays such a big part in these sprints, and anything over a 2.0 is it. We don't want it really. So that makes this time
Chris,
even more legitimate.
I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit more
Talk about
the
the air
wind.
pressure system.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. well, no, it's more so like both races were wind legal. Do you think, Kyle? We talked a little bit about this with, I believe it was Michael Johnson, about had it not been wind legal, and we would have got like a over 2 win, maybe a +3, and no Lyles runs something ridiculous, faster than Bolt's record, but it's not the world record. Does that push him into the headlines a bit more? Like he's runs.
This is with Trey and Marvin because
Okay.
we were talking about the argument
They
against
hate it,
flipping
of course,
the track.
right.
Like you want to run
Sprinters
or
hate it.
Yeah, of course, but for the mainstream media,
yeah, of course. I mean,
They don't
you always want
understand
the smaller number,
But
the
then
better.
we end up in that weird situation where we have to explain to all the fans, like, it's not a world record because of the win, and you end up talking more about the win. So all in all, it was just a thought that I wanted to float out there. I'm happy that it was win league.
I will
Yeah,
say
no,
this:
I agree.
Bolt's world record was into a headwind. So now I'm like,
That's repulsive.
so now that's just like for some reason the 200 compared to the 100 in which you're obviously just running straight one way. Now for some reason that's always thrown me a little. But anyway, so
How many medals is this for Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce?
oh my god, I don't have that many fingers.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like she's a 3-time Olympic champion, 10-time world champion, 4-time Olympic Games silver medalist.
And that's not counting
4
any of the relay, or that is the relays.
No, I guess not.
Maybe a couple.
Oh my
Anyway, it's a
gosh.
ton.
We'll have one of our stats people in the back look it up.
Add up.
You
Get the
guys got it.
calculator.
But I mean, she was one of those people. Okay, there was no press conference after the women's 100 because Shelly-Ann needed to rest. Clearly, she got her rest and put on a show today too. And the best part I think about this was that last year I felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a lot of assumed animosity between Shelly-Ann and Elaine, right? Like I felt like a lot of people tried to prop them up as rivals, and they weren't really that friends and that close. Today, I think what we saw, there was I think there's a photo that's going viral on Twitter right now.
Elaine ultimately finished
Yeah, Elaine faded.
to 7th.
Yeah, but there's a photo of Shericka and Shelly-Ann hugging, and the Jamaican Twitter is blowing up right now. So I'm not sure. Like maybe there's someone in the chat who can lend
They
a little
train
bit
together?
more information.
I believe they were training together. I don't think she's training with that group anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I will say is I did see how everyone kind of plastered that rivalry against them. I think of that just kind of how we looked at Noah and Erriyon, to be honest. It was
a little
moment.
storytelling.
It's a little storytelling. It was right after a hot race. They're competitors. But at the end of the day, I literally, when we were in Puerto Rico, Shelly was there. And Shelly did not compete. Elaine was running. And so, to me, I think that they have this friendship. I don't see any hatred between them. We're competitors, so sometimes things get a little spicy, but you kind of shake things off. You rub it off. You're like, all right, but we're still friends at the end of the day.
Do you want to give a shout out to Tamara Clark, 4th at the Olympic trials last year, 6th in the world this year?
What?
I was hoping you'd want to give her a shout out.
How did I beat you to that shout out,
Yeah.
Caitlin?
I love Tamara. Go Bama. What's Roll Tide? That's what we gotta say. Yeah. No.
You're a college correspondent.
Yes, we are here. ESPNU. Is that what it's called? I'm taking John's job. But yes, I'm very, very proud of Tamara because I said this like during USA's, like when she actually made the team, that you could just tell there was like a lot of fight in her. I mean, she was going up against so many amazing women on the USA team, and we all know when it comes to the sprints, very, very difficult to make. But literally watching her face come down that like 200 but 200 straightaway, I'm like, this girl is gonna come out here to World Championships and try to podium. And unfortunately, that didn't happen this time. But I still think she ran a really great race. She's still really, really young. And I think that her and Abby will honestly be our next two American women alongside Jenna that will kind of try to break up what Jamaica has going on. And I said this about the women's 100 earlier this week too. Like, our women are really fast, but they're also like not as seasoned as like Shelly and Elaine who've been in the game for a really, really long time. Like, Shelly's 35 years old. She's got a kid. Don't look like she's stopping anytime soon, because if I was running that fast, I would just rack up as many medals as I could until I just completely passed out. But I think people need to give her a little bit more attention, and I think the same. I know Brittany's not here, but I'm going to talk about her as well. But Tamara reminded me a lot of Brittany when she came out to Doha in 2019. Brittany Brown in 2019 and ended up making the podium. So I think our girls will be fine.
So we'll give you a quick statistical rundown of that women's 200. So obviously
there's still one more person we have to talk about. We'll see what the statistical says.
Yeah. All right. Shericka Jackson, 21:45, second fastest time in history after Flojo's world record of 21:34, which, a lot of people are up for debate on that one. The time betters the championship record of 21:63 set by Daphne Skippers in 2015. This is a Hayward Field and an all-comers record. Silver went to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, second fastest mark ever for the World Championships after Elaine Thompson's 21:66 in 2015. 2015 was a really fast year. Jamaica's gold and silver was the sixth time that a nation put two women on the podium in the 200 meters, and the second gold-silver after the United States did that in 2005. Dina Asher-Smith, the defending champion in the event, won a bronze medal running 22:02, which is the second fastest mark for third place at the World Championships. And this was the fifth gold medal for Jamaica in the 200, which moves them ahead of the United States, who has won the race 4 times. That is your statistical breakdown, courtesy of World Athletics for the women's 200 meters.
Shout out to them for that.
Dina Asher-Smith.
You've been high on Dina Asher-Smith the past week.
We love Dina
because like she's been gone like for a while.
2019 world champion in the 200.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then I like heard a lot about injuries, like really inconsistent with like showing up to races, like whether or not she was running good or running at all. And so I think a lot of people definitely counted her out, and unfortunately I guess that was easy to do so when you still have the likes of Shelly and like other USA athletes and other Jamaican athletes who just run stuff like this on a consistent and daily basis. But she proved herself in the 100, got her medal there. Well, no, she did not get her medal there, but she did get a national record, slightly improved it, and we haven't seen her run that fast since 2019. And personally, I did not have Dina on the podium for, my predictions, but, my women's prediction was completely screwed up. So, laugh at me if you want. But it was really exciting to, see her, fight so hard to get a PR in the 100, but then actually have that literally come together in the 200. And no, it's not a gold, so she can't say she's 2-time gold, but she made the podium like 2 championships in a row, and I think that's something that a lot of people should definitely like speak more about. Like, the girl's been gone for a while. Like, nobody was thinking about her.
2020.
Yeah, there's only 9 women in history who have medaled twice in this event. So it's an exclusive club that she's in.
Yeah.
So in Tokyo, think about it. The fact that she was the world champion going in, and then she got hurt during the 100 heats, and then had to pull out of the 200, which is her better event. And it was just like, it got a lot of headlines because, of course, she would have been one of the favorites going in. But, she was really raw in the emotion that she showed in Tokyo. And I think a lot of people have really felt that and her journey back. And we saw glimpses of it. And it feels like if there was another few days of racing, that she'd be even better, because we saw it early on in the 100. And it's just, she's getting into shape right now and in form and is on the up and up. And she was someone who, from a really young age, has been in the spotlight, someone that especially the British knew was going to be a world beater. And sometimes people have serious injuries and they don't come back, and she's back, so it's great to see. But something that I had read earlier today that I thought was really cool, she's had the same coach since she was 8 years old.
8.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
The same
Who
coach.
was your coach at 8 years old, Kyle?
That's impressive.
My coach, I was coaching myself at the time.
So this is kind of crazy, because when you were bringing up some of the names from like 2019, it's like even the 2021. Like, I'm looking at the Olympic medalists from this. Elaine Thompson finishes 7th. Christine Umamba from Namibia.
She was hurt this
season. Scratches. Gabby Thomas is, I believe, in the relay pool here for the 4x1, but didn't make the team. Had a hamstring injury during USA's that she recovered in time afterwards. And so now, if you think about it, we had this epic race on our hands today, and two of the 3 Olympic medalists from last year weren't even in it. What could be in store for Budapest? Like, I mean, I'm excited.
It's
is it too early to get excited for
Michael
that?
Johnson
Very
said to get rid of the
unpredictable.
200. I don't know.
Do you think he
I
changed
normally
his
agree
mind
with him,
now?
and I had initially agreed, and now I'm having doubts because that was really fun.
Yeah, that was real. I think the 200 is such a fun race. I have to disagree with them. I think the 200 is where the 1 and the 4 meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So you get
That's actually
the
true.
battle
Quite literally.
of it. And so I think that in itself builds such a great storyline, which is what makes the race so great.
Yeah, it would just force athletes to pick 100 or 400, and you think, like, a star of Noah's caliber, would we not have him if there was only the 100 or 400? I feel like he'd probably be able to turn into a pretty good 400 runner, but should we go into like the early stuff? I kind of like when we start with the
Hot.
finals hot, especially when
Stick
we're
with us,
emergency
people.
pod.
We've got some more takes and analysis on some of the biggest surprises that took place today.
The women's 800 was boring. No.
Oh my. Okay.
I mean, in truth, all of the favorites got
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
it
they
was a
got
little
through.
boring.
Yeah,
It was only the
very
first.
easy. I think the fun part for me though was sitting with the fans, and as they freaked out watching Raven run, I was like, Raven is not new to this. She is true to this.
She got bumped around a couple times hard.
She did
though.
get bumped around, but one thing I know about Raven is Raven knows how to handle those situations very well.
Yeah. So yesterday, what we saw was none of the American men advanced.
But now we got all of them.
and now we got all the women.
Yeah,
So
Chris, I'm going to throw
thanks for
this
holding it
your
down.
way. Who had the fastest time of the day?
The fastest time of the day was Diribi with that G.
Thank you for taking that
from
bullet
Ethiopia.
for me.
I mean, apologies to our Ethiopian fans and listeners. I did actually see. I didn't click the video, but there's someone on Twitter who tweeted out a video of a pronunciation guide for.
Yeah, I think you should have clicked on that video.
You should have clicked on it.
It's not
I
too
should have
late.
clicked on that
Go
video.
back and click
You
on
know
that
what?
video later.
By the time we sit down to do this for the semifinal, I will have clicked the video and learned it. So apologies to Duribe. But 158.83 is fastest time of the day. Gemma Riki's second fastest time of the day. 159.09.
So that first heat's in the tone. It kind of said to everyone else.
Yeah, and then
Don't
you know
even try.
today, you know what? Like, good day for the Jamaicans in the 200, but also a good day for the Jamaicans
Yay,
in the 800.
Natoya.
Natoya Gould, 2 flat 06. Adele Tracy, 159.20 for a personal best coming off of the 1500. So, yeah, I mean, pretty solid day. Athing Mu just jogging to a 2 flat,
Yeah.
201, whatever it was.
Jogging.
Casual.
It was
so casual.
yeah.
Walked right up those stairs like she didn't do anything.
QR code on the side that got some attention today.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
the
I
Q.
have
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no,
We
the-
only accept questions about QR codes from now on.
So the QR code that was on Athing Mu's leg, people tried scanning it on TV. She might be a little bit too quick. And we posted a picture, and if you try to scan it, it could be a little bit difficult because she's at an angle. But it goes to a YouTube series that was produced by World Athletics and Team USA, USATF, to help tell some of the athlete stories for, I believe, 6 athletes. And so she was one of them. Ryan Krauser's another one. Grant Holloway was another one, but Grant Holloway forgot his on his backpack,
Oh.
and so he got in trouble with them because like we spent all this money and like did this stuff to put you in the series, and Grant forgot it. You know what? Grant should have just made up for it and just like come on the show and brought the QR code
that
and let
would've been
everyone do
cool.
it. But alas. So yeah, that was the big mystery behind the QR code.
What was your question pre-QR code?
I liked it in theory, but like if you're there at the meet, like you can't do anything about it unless you're sitting exactly where I am, and you like can try to get them to stop and be like, yo, like can I scan your leg? Because that's what I was able to do like with the thing.
That's how you got it?
Yeah, because
Are
I
you
literally
guys tight now?
I don't know.
Do you-
I mean,
I don't
okay,
think so.
because the thing is because
I
like
think you guys are.
The thing
And
is
you-
with a thing.
I
yeah.
think she likes
thing-
you.
okay,
a lot.
because at USA's, I thought I made friends with like a lot of people, and then like I would try to like talk to them as they came up the stairs, and like they wouldn't say anything back, or like they would act like they hadn't
Before
seen
or
me
after
before.
the race?
I'm like, they're in the midst of competing
they're
at
in
world
the heat of
championships,
competition.
Caitlin.
She's new to
Caitlin.
pro track.
She's new to pro track. It's okay.
I'm gonna stop speaking now. Sorry.
Wait, are you saying before or after?
I was saying after.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you-
maybe. I
they're
mean,
in the
she's also got to get
mix.
to.
She
like,
was brief in the mixed zone today. She did give everyone a minute or two, but it wasn't like after the final at USA's where she stayed there for
Yeah,
an
this
hour.
is it's very different here at the World Championships.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
I think so.
my
That's
first
that's a
World
that's a point of
Champs, I
contact, not just for Caitlin, but also for like the fans and the people who tune in and watch, and they're like, well, why didn't you guys interview this person, or why haven't I seen any quotes or interviews with that person? And it's sort of like sometimes an athlete is just locked in the zone and just wants to keep walking, and they'll say we'll talk after the final, or we'll talk after the semifinal, or until they're eliminated, but then you don't really want to talk to them too much. So that's someone like a thing. Like she just maybe has to go out to go get a cool down or something like that. And like athletes, have their routine. So yeah, I mean, 800 today. Did you get anyone in the mix zone that said anything of note?
Honestly, no. It's again, the favorites all made it through. It was kind of standard in that, and that's what you want. You want the favorites to make it through that first round. We want to see the big matchups. Keeley, Hodgkinson looked good, made it through. Mora from Kenya would be another athlete who we think is maybe a contender here. And ultimately, what was her official time?
Who? Keeley?
No, Mora.
Oh, Mary Mora was 2 flat, 0.42.
Okay, so the contenders all made it through, and then we had the men's 800 semis to quickly discuss. What do we have?
Well, I'm just saying, Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce is currently live on
her own
on her
Instagram.
Instagram. It looks like during the press
The press conference?
I just love when athletes go live after these big moments. She's turning the camera over to Shericka Jackson. She's sitting during the press conference. Here's the thing. How many people are tuned into this? 5,800.
Good for the sport.
That's pretty
They're
good.
hilarious in press conferences. So
What
I'm
did
just
you
gonna
make of her
throw
hair?
that there. I freaking loved it. I was all in for it. Shelly and her wigs, the change up for me, absolutely amazing. It was the pink bust down for me. Come through, Shelly. Keep it up. Don't change a thing.
Did you guys see the tweets from our middle-aged white male friend.
Forget them.
Oh,
Well, actually, it's funny because someone did just put out a tweet that
If it's bad, forget them. I don't want to hear
no,
it.
no,
it was good.
It was kind of cool in a way
Okay.
because he was asking from such a point of like genuine curiosity.
What was it?
And was like he just didn't know how wigs work, I guess, and like. He's a good guy and everything, like, and he
I
just
wish
didn't
I
know, and he
brought-
obviously, but everyone in Jamaica was really genuine in explaining
You
to
know
him,
what?
and he like
I think
apologized,
on
and it was kind of
on our next
it was
podcast,
good Twitter.
maybe I can get Caitlin once we go home. I will do a tutorial on how wigs work.
that's actually fairly interesting. I would say
I
because
That's
got
our
you
live.
guys.
That's our live later this
I
week.
think we can. I think I can handle that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Well, because then there was another tweet from tonight that someone in the mix zone asked Shelly about her wig choice for today, and said it was like, "Oh, this is fuchsia," and she was like, "No," and like said like, "Clearly you're a guy because this is hot pink."
Yes.
Yeah.
I was about to say that is definitely a hot pink, but
That's
Yeah.
why we need you guys.
That's
down
why we
there.
need you. Yeah.
that's why you guys have us here. We're all about fashion.
All right. Should we move to
The men's 8.
the men's 800?
So Emmanuel Courier, the Olympic champ, he didn't have like a crazy early season, and you know he wasn't like an upset or anything at the Olympics, but it wasn't. For some reason, even I felt like last year winning the Olympics, Courier didn't get as much attention as he wanted, and then we enter this year, and he started off, you know, not slow, but he didn't come out that hot earlier in the year, but he's been getting better and better and better. At the Kenyan trials, he ran like 44 point in the open 400, which is just objectively good, let alone for an 800 runner. And he looked excellent in the first round. He looked excellent in the second round. I just don't think this is as open of a race as the narrative has kind of said. It's been, oh, it's anyone's 800. It's like, what do you mean? The Olympic champion is in it, and he looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the chance to talk to him in the mix zone. And this one, it's so hard to like get up for it because like we don't have a pony
We don't have anyone.
in the race.
Well, we have some.
But you know, I do think it's going to be. Is it going to be one of the slower 800-meter finals in recent history?
I mean, what is no? Because the Olympics wasn't the Olympics slow.
Okay. No, I mean I'm genuinely curious because like there is no big guy that I think pops to me aside from Courier to push the pace to make it like a 142 high race. No one
Yeah.
has run that fast in a while.
And that's I think maybe why we're saying it is wide open. And you know, I say that the 800 at the Olympics was slow. They still ran 145, but that's not, you know, what Brazier won in 2019. That's not what we were seeing out of Rudisha, if you remember those good old days. And so I understand the sentiment, but I think Courier's got this one.
Yeah.
Algeria 2 in the final.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Algeria, I guess like the last time we had seen someone medal in the middle distance races on the men's side for Algeria, Taufik Makhloufi, who has I think kind of faded and might be done competing at this point. So maybe this is the next wave of runners that we're seeing from them. And, you know, I'd be curious because, like, again, pretty unheralded. Haven't heard much about these guys before. So I'm curious to see what they throw down in a global championship final.
And then we do have a third Kenyan in. So Kenya gets 3 through. For a North American.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to lean into the North American sort of like that's who we're rooting for. in
Yeah,
this
so,
one.
and Marco Arop, Canada's own, Mississippi State.
Mhm.
Nice. Really looked strong. Took it from the beginning. Eventually, Mullah from Algeria took him over just at the end. But I'm curious if he's the one to make it honest. He's done that before. He's not afraid to run from the front. I think if there is a ticket to a 142 winning time, it's on the back of Arop.
You know, the other thing, too, is sort of like it was just this is the wild part about being at a world championship. It was just yesterday that we were talking so much about like the likes of who was it? The Moed Zahafi, like him possibly being someone to watch. Mariano Garcia, who won indoors. And then Spain had one other guy in there. It was Alvaro de Arriba, and gone just like that.
I mean, the 800 semis we had this conversation a few days ago of what the easiest, round or prelim or whatever. I think did we say the 200 for a good 200 runner was up there? The 800 semifinals might be the hardest to knock down from 24 to 8.
Yeah.
And
that is a big drop.
I mean, you can just get a bad heat draw in which you get the gold and silver medalist and you're done.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I mean, it's a tough one to make. It's brutal. And we lost some favorites, but manual career, calling it now.
I'm just kind of watching Twitter as this night goes on while we're here recording this podcast, and that's, I guess, the beauty of going live a little bit earlier.
Everyone's still reacting.
Everyone's still reacting. Sunday Night Football tweeted about Noah Lyles, and they said, "Any interest in being a wide receiver? Please, please don't leave the sport now, Noah Lyles. Don't do that to yourself. We need you." All right, next up, Kyle. What we got?
I think this is probably where we're gonna finish, unless we're gonna. Right, the 5,000 heats, really hot.
I thought we were watching the final. I'm not gonna hold you. Like when the second heat came around,
you're like, who's this?
I thought in the 10K I had never seen like so many people come to the line at one time, and then the 5K just like it was like 10
That's
dudes
literally
up there.
what she said while we're sitting down. I've never seen so many people come through. That was intense.
Yeah.
That was really intense.
I mean, so there's only 5 automatic qualifiers. The first heat started slow, and ultimately we end up getting one time from that first heat. But yeah, no, they were really packed up, and it was interesting watching them run in, because first off, it's like, all right, you've got Salman Barega, the Olympic 10K champ. You got Joshua Cheptegei, the Olympic 5K champ, world record holder in the 5 and 10, world championship 10,000 gold medalist. And then it's like, you got Oscar Chalimo, another great Ugandan runner. And then it's like, all right, Grant Fisher, you did not get a good draw. Like, you got to make this through. And I forgot he was like hiding in the back for the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
And then Abdi Nur, I mean, looked great in the final 100 meters. Chris, we had an opportunity to talk to him afterwards.
He was all smiles. He said there's been some good workouts leading into this. He put pen to paper and has signed a professional contract with Nike. So he has turned pro. He will be staying in Flagstaff and continuing to work under Coach Mike Smith. So, he's all smiles. He actually, what was really funny is when in the mix zone they have like these rows that the athletes have to just walk through. It's like a maze, and he is on one side of it. I'm turned back facing one wall, and he calls my name, and so I turn around. But what he did was he ducked underneath the barricade, so I couldn't see him, and then he pops up on the other side and starts laughing at me for looking, and I was like, oh, all right. So he just it's little Abdi. You have to love this kid. He's all smiles. And the thing was, it was sort of like we didn't get the chance to. While I was talking to him, the other heat was going on, and he just kind of stuck right with Grant Fisher. Grant Fisher actually kind of opened up a little bit of space for Abdi to make it through on the inside in lane 1. It wasn't intentional, because I talked to Grant afterwards, and I was like, was that on purpose? And he says, if it looked like that, then yeah. But no, I mean, it's good to see that we've got, another guy in the final. And yeah, Abdi says, I said to him, what would be an A+ day in the final? And he said, compete. Like, I just want to compete. And someone asked him, would you want it to be a slow or tactical one? He says, I don't care, whichever one. And same exact thing Grant Fisher. Well, actually, Grant Fisher said, would you rather have a slow or a tactical final? He says, fast. So those two guys are ready to go. Now, real quick aside on Abdi Nur is a lot of people obviously know of him from his success at NAU. He was the indoor champion at NCAAs, and he's got a very fascinating story where he was born in Somalia, then spent some time in Egypt. It was left the country, eventually found his way to the United States, settled in Arizona, and has kind of forged his own path in that way. Where it's a really good story. I'm hoping that I can get him on the podcast. I actually messaged him right after NCAA indoors, and he said, let's do this after NCAA outdoors. And I said to him, after USA's, I was like, do you want to do it between USA's and Worlds? He says, let's do it after Worlds. So like, he's excited to just tell the full story about this. But his training partner and former teammate at NAU, Luis Grijalva, Mac, is it possible for you to queue up this clip? It's Luis Grijalva on my Twitter feed. I got the chance to talk to him in the mix zone because in Heat 2, which we'll analyze in just a bit, Luis was the guy who went and pushed the pace from the front. Like, that takes balls. I mean, he's gotten a chance to... He competed at the Olympics for Guatemala last year. He's a dreamer, which the story for him getting to the Tokyo Olympics was inspiring because he's representing, more than just himself out there and his country. He's representing these dreamers in the United States. He doesn't get the opportunity to leave, and so he goes to Tokyo, races there. This past spring also gets permission from the United States government to leave the country, because if you're a dreamer, you can't leave the country, or else it's like self-deportation. And so gets special permission to go compete at 2 Diamond League races, gets a little taste of international racing experience, and maybe that's what we saw on display here today, was a little bit more of that savviness and the tactics that he's picked up from that. So then he makes it through into the next round. I said to him in the mix zone, what does it mean for both you and Abdi, who are both training partners, to qualify for the World Championship final together? Abdi, make it through to the final. How special is that, considering the two of you have been tuning up together, training all year long?
Yeah, it's pretty special. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know why it hit me, but yeah, that guy's like my brother, so. Whoa. I saw you make the...
You spot for NAU on there somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, I need an NAU patch, but yeah, where he came from and where I come from, it's pretty special, honestly.
How often do you two talk about
I don't know why. This got me, but we've been through a lot together, and we're brothers, best friends. We live together, and it's pretty special. Like, I'm sure he told you, but he's staying in Flagstaff, so yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No, you're good, Luis.
Yeah.
First ever.
So that was a really touching moment for him, because in addition to that, I think what hit him was the fact that they get to be on the world stage together and share that moment. So it's a clip that is currently blowing up on Twitter and on YouTube, but now it makes you a little bit more excited because those two share a story beyond just the track. And so I'm looking forward to it. So if we kind of want to, I guess, Kyle, from there, you want to take it and talk, and Mac as well, because Mac we were a bit tied up in the mix zone and didn't get to watch this race as closely. So Mac, what did you take away from the second heat of the men's 5K?
Yeah, I just want to make there we go.
Mac Fleek, everybody, our camera guy.
Can you hear me on this?
If you can hear Mac in the chat,
Go back to you.
give a thumbs up.
All right. Well, then let me touch on two athletes that I think people aren't that familiar with yet. And part of the reason, and we said this in the 10K, like the Kenyan team is really young, and we aren't really familiar with them. But two athletes that have the two fastest times in the world this year from Kenya ran 12:46 earlier in the year in Rome, look excellent. And you had Nicholas Kipkorir, I believe also goes by Nicholas Kameli, and then the fastest time of the day was Jacob Kropp, 13:13, and that second heat, they got moving early, and it was largely Luis, who really blew it open. And he had a sizable gap at one point. And that's, the benefit of being in the second heat. You know exactly what time you need to do. You're crunching the numbers in your head. You don't mind if other people come with you. And they went and they did it. The big names from this heat, like Mohamed and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who was...
Did you see what he did the last 100?
Tell us.
Oh, he started pumping up the crowd, right?
He literally... I don't even... It wasn't even a race at that point. It was literally just... You talk about Noah being a showman. Like, I think it's him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because somebody went on Twitter and was like, I think we have to consider him the most confident, person in track and field. I said, unfortunately, I believe that goes to Fred Curley. But Ingebrigtsen is definitely in a close second.
Funny thing was, when someone brought up in the mix zone, it was Jonathan Gold from Let'sRun.com. He asked him, are you concerned about the heat for the final? Because that was something that other athletes were talking about. And he said, no. What was it? Hot weather is happy weather.
That's true.
And then I have one quick question about this distance stuff because
there's probably other people who have a similar question. So I enjoy the segment.
So what I've seen from a lot of distance runners is there will be people in the 15 and do it really well, but then they'll also be in the 5K and the 10K and do it really well. And I feel like for a sprinter, that would probably be the equivalent of being really good in the 100, but also really good in the 8. And you don't see that. So how do you go from being a super stellar 1500 meter runner to also making finals in the 10 and the 5K because that's two completely different things.
Yeah.
Great question.
That's a really
great
good question.
All right. So traditionally in the distance events, when you're younger, you will start, not everyone, but generally an athlete will start in the 1500 because you have greater speed when you're younger. And then as you get older and you develop your aerobic ability, you slowly start to trend upwards. So, you may be a 1500 specialist when you're 20 to 27, and then all of a sudden, that 400 speed starts to not be quite what it used to be. So you start dabbling in the 5K. And what happens is you're accumulating the miles as well, and you're way, way stronger. And so now you're better equipped to handle the 5K. And then oftentimes that goes even one step further, and you see athletes who were previously good at the 1500 now good at the 10K. Now, it's very unlikely that someone is in a championship competing in the 1500 and the 10K for multiple reasons. 3 rounds in the 1500. The 10K takes so much out of you. The training between the 1500 and 10K are very different, so you probably would never see that in one season.
Yeah.
But you might see someone with a great 1500 PR running really well in the 10K. I remember that guy from the 1500 last year. But generally, you're not going to see it in one, peak part of the season. Unless you're Sifan Hassan, which is why it's so special.
Well, wasn't Ingebrigtsen also in the 15
So,
as well? But
yeah.
he's having a fun time in the 5K.
So then the 1500, and so in the 5K, you can kind of approach it from two angles in which these guys are running, 63 seconds, 62, 61. They're running very fast. And so a lot of these 5K runners might be approaching it more from a 1500 angle in which they're competitive in the 1500. And then others are coming down from it from the 10K. And it's kind of, it's the meeting of the minds in the middle there. Jakob, for example, despite setting an indoor world record in the 1500 this season or earlier this year, ran an 800, and then he ended up running a 346 mile the week after. He ran an 800, a competitive 800, and he ran 147, which is not anywhere close. I ran 147. Not today. That was a 157. But the difference between a 346 and a 147, it's totally different. But then when you see him in a 5K, all of a sudden I think his PR is 12:48, 49:50, somewhere like that. So he's really competitive in the 5K despite his 800 time. He not even close. He might not make it out of the first round. If he specialized in it, he would maybe be able to.
Yeah.
But because he attacks the 1500 from that strength angle, he's sacrificing that speed.
That was a good question, Caitlin. Thank you.
Cause I feel like the only person that I've seen come close to doing something like that is a thing because she was running. I remember the one time that she ran a 200 and everybody's like, dude, if you wanted to do this seriously, you would probably scare the daylights out of everyone else who does specialize in the 200. So then I was thinking like, oh, it's like one day she's gonna run 100, and like obviously the 800 is her thing, but you know, seeing her like literally go from, I guess if you want to call the 200 a short sprint, moving up to like the long sprint, and then a lot of people are calling the 800 a long sprint now too.
And
so
no,
I
it's
don't
a
really
sprint.
know. It's so moving up to
sprint.
the longest of the longest sprints. It's like, can people like do this for real?
Well, we saw Athing try to run the Millrose Mile, and I say try because she ultimately didn't finish, but she went for it, and you know, Athing is definitely more of a 4.8 runner, but she's strong. And when we saw, she went out, she said she tried to win, like she ran it to win, and she held on for as long as she could. And I think she made it to about 1,100 meters before she faded. And when she faded hard, and ultimately decided not to run the last lap. And in that moment, I saw, oh, you're gonna run like 3:55 one day in the 1,500.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So watching her do that, do we see a future for her in the 15?
I mean, right now, like, what do you think Athing could probably run in an open 400? 48.9.
I think she could. Like, I feel like if she
for sure.
if she went out there, because she's a
for sure.
competitor. Like, she hasn't lost many races. So I think she could definitely go out there and run a 48. I mean, wasn't she on the 4x4?
Yeah, I mean,
last
she's
year?
split 48.
Like she's
48 low.
Yeah.
and she did it at NCAA's like when she graduated that year as well. So, well, not graduated, she just went pro. She's that damn good. But I don't know, like you're saying, you know, as you get older that speed kind of deteriorates, but you know, like building up that aerobic stuff, you still got that stuff behind you. So I mean, maybe she could move up and be really good.
And what happens sometimes is you get, when you're running and attacking things from mileage angle and strength side of things, it's a little bit easier to be consistent because you're not relying on just having like fresh poppy legs. It's a little bit more like your lungs can take in a lot of oxygen for your red blood cells, and that's like, you know, it's not as reliant on showing up on that day. So oftentimes what we'll see is the athletes that are a little bit more strength oriented, like their longevity and their consistency is sometimes a little bit better. And that's why I have said in the past, like, the hardest thing in the world is to peak an 800 runner. Like, it is as much luck as it is art and science.
So I think we've got David Melly in the house. Is he here right now? David Melly, who traveled all the way from Boston, is finally making his debut on Champs Chats. David,
Jasmine's tapping out.
I got
David-
another restroom.
David replaces Jasmine.
Watch out, world.
David, you just came back from the mix zone. Can you give us Melly's mix zone report?
This would be a good segment the last few days.
Oh, so I have to be in the mix zone?
Yes, you do.
It was very interesting vibes in there, actually.
You haven't been in like that situation before. You were asking some questions.
I've
like,
been in
what are
mix
the
zones
rules?
before, but
like at Worlds.
I haven't been. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have you guys talked about the mix zone at Worlds on the
A
pod?
little
bit.
So
You
like there are a lot of rules about who can kind of ask what questions where, and the long and short of it is, where CITIUS MAG's operational priority goes is last. So by the time folks get to us,
Internet
Hey,
press,
we're-
not just us. It's internet press.
We're coming.
Yeah.
We're coming.
Shout out to the internet press. It's us.
we're
Flow
here.
Track,
We
Let's
have
Run.
they gave us a lot of credentials. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to be here. But you know, by the time the athletes get to us, they've answered a lot of questions that are probably all
The
pretty
Americans are
similar.
always pumped to see it.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing was there was, you know, so I basically saw the podium of the both 200s, and then I spoke with Joe Fonbelay, who got fourth in the race as well. And you guys, I assume, have talked about the races.
Who?
Yeah, we've
I literally
we've-
just walked in.
No, yeah, no,
listeners,
that
so
was
I'm
me.
not-
You
yeah.
were in my shoes yesterday. So give us Melly's mix zone report. What did Joe say?
So Joe, just walking it through, like in terms of who is happy and who is not, I was pretty surprised actually because, you know, Joe is pretty bummed, which I do understand is like he got fourth and missed a medal. That's pretty understandable. And I think he, you know, definitely was focused on, you know, coming back next year even stronger. The interesting thing from our conversation was towards the end of the section, I asked him kind of facetiously. I was like, "Oh, do we have a big announcement coming?" And because he's accomplished a lot on the NCAA level, and maybe there's not so much left to accomplish with that level of competition. And he said, "There's a big announcement coming in 2 days," and then made a little.
Isn't he scheduled to be on our show in 2 days?
He could be.
Press conference.
But yeah, so he made
We'll
a little
hold the Joe
signing
Fonville
sign with his hand, which you can watch on Twitter. So we can't report anything yet, but we can report that that's what he said. So I guess stay tuned for the next 2 days on Joe Fonville's future.
We should get like a Nike and Adidas, a Puma
Hat.
or shoe.
I was
Like
gonna
a
say
high
get a
school
poll
signing
going, like
day?
have people guessing, but Knighton, who got third, was
My
pretty
boy.
happy. Like I
Yeah.
thought and he's like a pretty
Good.
stoic guy in the mix zones, and someone I haven't been in the mix zone all week, but one of the guys next to me said that's the happiest I've seen him this whole week. And he, I don't know whether it was just the relief of, kind of it being over and just knowing the result, but he was pumped to medal. He was pumped to be there. He clearly, wants more, but he was really, in a good spot. And Kenny Bednarek, who, I kind of thought like overachieved expectations by getting another silver and beating Knighton he was like definitely the least cheerful of the Team USA podium. He was not super happy. And again, like, they're tired. It's been a long day. It's been emotional. Like, you don't never know how he's going to feel tomorrow morning. But he was definitely feeling like he had more to go. And, obviously kind of looking at the future of the 200 for the men with all these guys being so young, like keeping them hungry is definitely good. And then, obviously Noah was just Noah Lyles. Like he talked to every single like stop in the media for so long. And even by the time he got to us, he was animated and excited, and he's excited for himself, but he's so excited for the future of track and field and American track and field. Like, he's talking about what we can do next, and I think that really kind of speaks to his attitude about this whole thing.
Did he talk about ripping his top?
I asked him if
what was he wearing?
Was he shirtless in the mix zone?
No, he was wearing a shirt. It was like it was warm ups, I think it was, but I asked him if he planned the celebration, and he like cruised right past me because someone else asked a conversation at the same time. So if we get him, on CITIUS MAG Live, we'll have to ask him there. But
Yeah, we're gonna try our best. Real quick, the reporter who had seen Erriyon happy for the the happiest he'd ever seen him has obviously never been to Bahama Breeze with him. Mac and I have experienced going to Bahama Breeze with Erriyon Knighton, and let me tell you, that kid loves his what was it, like fettuccine alfredo with chicken?
We all love fettuccine alfredo with
something
chicken.
like that. I just had exactly the same thing as him.
Well, and you also got to realize, obviously, like, the performance pressure when you're that young is a lot, but also the media pressure, like just having 10 cameras stuck in your face 4 times in a row after like one of the most emotional moments of your life. That's just a lot to deal with, and the fact that he is kind of navigating that well was really interesting. And then on the women's side, just quickly, so Dina Asher-Smith was like thrilled. She's like, I don't know if fans are like super familiar with her and her kind of vibe, but she's like the most positive, nice person to talk to, and she was just so like, positive energy, super infectious. It was wonderful. And then Shelly Ann, like, you'd think like somebody as competitive as her, who's won so many times, she was not sad to get second. Like, she was the bubbliest person in the mix zone. She was bouncing through. She was making jokes. Like, she was having a great time. So clearly she's just like riding this Team Jamaica high. And then
Wait, we can cue up the clip. Mac, if you want to pull up this clip that is currently going viral on our Twitter page, Shericka Jackson, something that, from the CITIUS MAG account that David tweeted out about 40 minutes ago. So can you kind of cue this up for us? Like, what was leading into this before we roll the clip?
Sure, and again, like, I mentioned, like, how many kind of stops you have to go through in the mix zone. Like, by the time Shericka got to us, like, she just looked tired. Like, I think she's definitely not as like much of a big personality as Shelly Ann, and like, I think she even like kind of during the normal questioning part of the conversation, like, she was clearly happy and like was had such a big moment, but like, I think she just was really just like overwhelmed, and obviously having so often it's like the Jamaican sweep or Elaine and Shelly Ann, like, and having like the spotlight on her, obviously is just a lot to deal with after such a big moment.
So did she? Mac has got it queued up. Let's see if we can roll the tape.
What do you make of the current world record?
Come again?
There's one person in history who's run faster than you tonight. I'm wondering what you make of the current world record. Do you believe in that time?
What kind of question is that supposed to be?
Well, there's some questions about.
Isn't it the world record?
It is the world record. Yeah.
So why do you think I need to question the world record?
There are some questions.
Well,
about
that's not me.
Okay.
And that question is so rude of you to ask.
Okay, thank you.
So, explain what just happened in that.
Sure. So basically, another running website, and
You could say who it was. It's fine.
So John Gall from Let's Run asked, given all of the kind of speculation, rampant speculation that there historically has been around FloJo's records and their legitimacy, and in general just sprint records from the 80s and 90s. He basically said, do you have doubts about that record? And on one hand, I kind of see it both ways. Like that's a fair question. Like I think that just from a journalism standpoint, it's like this is a reality of track and field that we have to grapple with constantly. And having to, I got a lot of interesting response when I tweeted basically just pointing out that, when Curly ran 9.76, that 4 of the 5 guys ahead of him on the all-time list have served suspensions for doping. And that it changes how we perceive the present to have the past exist in the form that it does. And that's a very complicated question, but it's one that I think athletes, should have a voice in because it affects them. So in some sense, I don't, begrudge John for asking that question, but at the same time, it's like, what's she gonna say, man? Like, it's a lose.
Did you take people know that wasn't you asking the question?
No, yeah.
No, I think that should be made clear because there's a lot of responses on Twitter right now.
I phrased it pretty diplomatically on Twitter of a question was asked.
Yeah.
But
catching straight.
What do you say? You're either like I have full confidence that that's the legit world record, at which point half the internet's like, you're an idiot. And then, or you're like, the record's bullshit, at which half the internet is like you're just mad because she beat you, you hate America. Like, it's just a lose-lose. And again, I just think, and so it's a little bit hard to hear in the clip, but she just says she's like, what kind of question is that? And she says before she walks away, she said, that was just such a rude question to ask. And then she walked, I kind of was like, I guess I don't super understand why she took it so personally. I think that, and again, which is why I think
she's on a high, and
I think it comes down to it's just so, and yeah, it's
That's it. She's not. Sorry, I know.
Give her a microphone back.
Caitlin wants out anyways. Get out of here, Caitlin.
Caitlin, stay on.
Tag team. We're gonna tag team here, guys. It's my turn to come in. It's funny because my mom had actually sent me the video via DM from the CITIUS page, of course. And I think for most sprinters, one, it's taking away from her moment. You're now asking her about something that one would put her in a hot seat in the highlight of her moment. She just won a gold medal. And then you're going to put her in this controversy of, so do you even think that world record is legitimate? So no matter what response she puts, if she was to actually had said something, she's going to get someone attacking her from either way. And then at the end of the day, it's a world record. What is she going to do? Say, yeah, no, I don't think it's legitimate. What is that going to do? You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think that's just kind of where it comes from.
What's it called? Entrapment? Is that what it is?
Well, and that's where I come back to I think maybe if you were a little just fresher and you were prepared for the question, you kind of just say no comment and move on. But it does, it does speak to the fact that it's just it's a really long, I was literally by the time she came through, it was probably well over an hour after, the women had run and done the victory laps and everything. So it's yeah, I think, it's just there's a little bit of a straw that broke the camel's back for her as well. And I do think it also speaks to, one of the things I am in the process of writing about in the CITIUS MAG newsletter, which will come out tomorrow morning, is we hype up this Jamaican American rivalry, and that, and I think that is one of the fun things about being a track and field fan. But it's also one of the things about tonight that was so great is everybody got something. Like
Yes.
the Jamaican fans got to celebrate and the American fans got to celebrate, and like who doesn't want that? Like everybody
Yeah.
leaves happy, you know?
Yeah, and I think the one part that is, over the years, we've seen some of the Jamaican women don't open up to the U.S. media as much, and I think it's multiple times things like this happening that like
Yeah.
prevent us from making any sort of strides forward. It's like getting these sort of questions, like we know you might have the headline or story because we know like that's the angle that they were sort of looking for, no matter which way the answer would have gone. And so even that reaction, you know, is enough for them to then take and run with. And so we set ourselves back, I think, a little bit here as well with like being able to tell their stories as well. Like I wish that part of the reason why Shelly-Ann has all these medals and isn't as heralded as big of a star, I think, is also because, you know, there's moments like that where she's probably gotten the same exact questions that Shericka Jackson has gotten today, and it's annoying because like one way or another she's going to be made out to be a villain for whatever answer she decides to give. And I guess Bolt never really had that problem because he broke the world records, and that's why he was like this big star in the mainstream U.S. media as well. And being big in the U.S. media does a lot for, you know, the global landscape. And so, you know, the hope is that, you know, someone like Shericka Jackson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce can get, you know, one day, hopefully, break the world record. That's exciting for everybody, but also so that moments like this stop happening.
Yeah, I think that Team Jamaica is very, very, they're very picky on what questions they answer because they do know that stories can be flipped and turned. And so that's one thing that I will say that journalists should probably look out for is to be careful with what questions you are asking some of these athletes, because if we want to bring out personalities and we want questions that are questions answered, there's times and places for those questions to be answered. And a question like that at a time like this is not an appropriate time to ask that question.
Yeah, well, Jasmine, I think also, right, you made the point a couple days ago about just like so many of these Jamaican women have come from nothing before. And
Yes.
like that now all of a sudden, like they've built themselves up. They are national heroes. And for them to then start to take bad shots in the headlines for, you know, speaking on something like this, then it's sort of like, that's what the, you know, people will see in the media. And I think it's more appropriate now to celebrate this. And then this time is going to hold up for a bit. I'm happy to say. And so she's going to take multiple shots at the world record going forward. And so there's going to be other chances. And unfortunately, I think this means this question is going to continue to be asked in different ways and different times, because not every member of the media was in this space now. And, you know, there's going to be the next Diamond League that she goes to, someone's going to ask her, are you thinking about the world record? And so that's the frustrating part with athletes, is sometimes they get pigeonholed into these storylines. So,
well, and it's very interesting, I think, too, like, you know, you talk about them being such a big deal and national heroes. And we've joked about like, oh, Jamaican Twitter, you know, whenever anything happens that concerns Jamaican track and field athletes, like they go off about it. And like, I think that is kind of the double-edged sword of like how big track and field is in their country. Is like that they're treated much more like, you know, top tier celebrities, and with all the good and bad that comes from. And you think about like some of the questions Serena Williams has had to deal with in press conferences, or LeBron James. And it's, you know, there's a lot more of that kind of like the good and the bad when you're so big. And I think that they have to deal with that in a much more real way than maybe, you know, a big American track and field star who's, you know, still a big deal, but is not necessarily dealing with that kind of like almost like paparazzi level scrutiny all the time.
Yeah.
Kyle, any parting thoughts on that?
No. You guys crushed it.
No comment from Kyle Merber.
No comment.
No, it's also funny for me to see just like sometimes how Kyle navigates the mixed zone. He's like, oh, that person had a bad race. I'm staying out of it.
Mood. That's how I am
Hey,
too now.
yeah.
I'm no shame. No, I said it today. Yeah, they didn't let me in the media 800.
Well, we had to deal with all the controversy around Dana's shoes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were filing, appeals and
Look.
dealing with the World Athletics judges. And
I'll say this about my coverage of track and field. I am not big J journalism. I did not go to journalism school.
You're a marketing guy.
I'm a marketeer by trade. I market the sport. And when someone comes in and they are sad and they don't want to talk, I leave that to the
although
journalist.
I will say,
Same.
I actually enjoy, and I think a big part of being a good member of the media and an effective one is kind of being able to read people and to respond to their vibe. But
Yeah.
one of the things I always like is I like the kind of like the lonely, sad interview that no one else.
If
is paying
someone wants
attention
to
yeah,
do
you have to
it. Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that they are open to that.
Well,
But
Chris won't say what athlete, but today we had one interview with an athlete, and they did it out of respect of us,
Knowing us,
of knowing us and being friends. They were happy to record an interview, and afterwards, Chris just immediately said to them like, "I'm not going to post it. Like, you go take your time, and like we're wishing you the best." And
Yeah.
so
You're so
those-
sweet, Chris.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like if you don't want to do it, like, and you're just doing it out of obligation,
Yeah.
and it's like in that. For a lot of the athletes, it's like you're still trying to figure out what happened yourself.
I also
like you don't
think
have any
that's what
big
makes
insight
us
yet.
so great.
Yes,
Just
I
gonna
agree.
throw that out
Look into
there.
that camera. All right, Chris.
All right.
Tracksmith, 20% off. Use code WORLDS.
Worlds at checkout, tracksmith.com. Check them out. You've only got 3 more days to use it, so be sure to take advantage of it while you can. Many thanks to Tracksmith for supporting us. Today, actually, there was a press conference during the meet that was going on where John Carlos and Tommy Smith took the stage with Max Siegel, who will be a guest on CITIUS MAG Live tomorrow. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, big part of Malcolm Gladwell's Legacy of Speed podcast that is presented by Pushkin Industries, Tracksmith, and Puma. So be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And Hayward Magic Moment of the Night. Hayward Magic is the internet home for the diehard fans. Be sure to follow them on Instagram. Let's go around. Jasmine, Hayward Magic Moment of the Night.
Kung Fu Kenny
Okay.
taking that silver medal in the 200.
I know everyone's going to talk about the 200, so I'll avoid it just to mix it up. But Luis Grijalva qualifying in the 5K was just such a cool moment for him, and I hope he runs great in the final.
I'm going to take the Noah Lyles American record.
You got the easy ones.
double world champion gold.
I'll take Erriyon Knighton winning his first ever medal.
That's
My
your
guy.
boy.
That's my boy.
You could have come in last, and you'd be like,
I'm proud of the
Yeah.
kid. He's the youngest ever sprinter to win a world championship medal, the first one of many. Unfortunately, he's not going to pull off the MJ Gold move and only have golds. This is a bronze. It's a step forward. I am still on the Erriyon Knighton train, but I'm also on the Noah Lyles train. I'm like
You're on
a
any
subway
train,
commuter
yeah.
where I take the E to the F to the B to the C. I'll jump on any train.
Can we
it
get
takes
someone
me.
in here to say that Shericka was their magic moment? 'Cause
You know what?
I was trying to mix it
There
up,
we
and
go.
then
Dana's gonna take it away.
You know, I was on the episode, but Shericka was my magic moment
There you
of the
go.
night.
There you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Champs Chats on the CITIUS MAG podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. And if you're watching right now on YouTube, smash that subscribe button because we are hitting you with daily shows on YouTube for all of the World Championships. If this is your first time tuning in, go back and watch some of the episodes. I mean, it feels like yesterday's episode was nearly 4 hours. Like,
we traded people in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
Were you on the whole time?
Today?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you?
I was.
Did you use the bathroom once?
No, I'm good about that. Like,
Nice.
this is why me and Kyle switch out frequently.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching. We will see you guys again tomorrow. MacFleet, hit the music.